and welcome back to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. My name is Heather Nielsen, and I'm here with my wonderful co host, Vanessa Baldwin. And today we are going to bring just the two of us solo cast. We're going to talk about the state of homeopathy in the modern world. Homeopathy has very classic roots, and it's several hundred years old now. And it started off with Samuel Hahnemann's work, extensive research, and he experimented with a lot of things, but there did evolve to be pretty much a standard and classical way of practicing. So it's been a couple hundred years, Vanessa, right? And so what we're going to talk about today is how has homeopathy changed, and what are, like I would say, homeopaths who are more curious and open-minded and embracing the idea that we have a different context now. And so homeopathy has been evolving, and some of us are embracing that opportunity to expand our practice beyond classical. And so that's what we're going to share today is what does that look like, right, Vanessa?
Yeah, I don't think we should stay stuck in the box and just think like, okay, this is the only way that homeopathy can be used. And I don't think it's fair to say if the classical isn't working for somebody, that homeopathy doesn't work either, because there are other methodologies to use homeopathy, and there are a lot of other ways and tools and things that we can use that we've grown and evolved with. And I love your opening there. It was so beautiful, Heather. And I just think it's really important as a practitioner to be always evolving, growing, expanding, and learning more. And it's not 250 years ago, right? And things are different, and people are carrying a lot more baggage than they used to, right? A lot of more suppression. I mean, in Hahnemann's time, there wasn't the use of steroids and antibiotics and all the jabs that we had. There wasn't the combat of non-native EMFs. There wasn't a lot of, we're up against a lot more today than what we were up against back then. And being a homeopath for some time, Heather and I got a beautiful, amazing training in classical homeopathy. And for me, it really set the foundation where I really understand constitutional prescribing or selenium, right? Finding the person's selenium. So if someone comes to me, I can find the right selenium for them. That should be the like cures like, right? It's the same energetic disturbance or the same vibration that should bring them to cure. And sometimes it works, and sometimes there's a block or there's something else going on that they don't get a cure. And that makes me question and wonder. So I have been expanding and taking more trainings because I want to be the best practitioner I can be, right? So let me expand and get more trainings and learn more. And like, what else can we do? And sometimes what else happens when somebody comes is you can see several constitutions, like layers, but you can't kind of figure, it's hard to see like which one's actually on top. And they're like kind of a muddy picture. And that muddy picture is typically due to like all of the druggings that we do, basically, and some sort of like blocks that are there, whether it's a trauma block or whether it's a drugging block. Like I think those are the two main blocks typically, or unless it's something in their environment that is continually triggering, like an unhealthy, safe environment, right? That is continually triggering them to be in their, I don't know, diseased state or this like vibrational state that's diseased. So I think the theme today is really just be moving like because there's wars inside of homeopathy. Like most people who are not in like the homeopathy world, they don't know that. But there's a lot of fighting amongst homeopaths. And that is so disheartening to me because it's like there's so much beauty and love in this medicine. And it's like, why can't we all just realize that like there's not just one way to do anything, really? Like we have to treat individuals. And some people, classical is the way to go. And some people need a more modern approach. And some people need a homeopathic detox. And some people need to repeat the remedy. And some people don't. I mean, what I'm learning from my astrology class, I can look at somebody's natal chart and I could say, oh, this person has a lot of fixed, right, signs or planets. They actually need to repeat the remedy more frequently. But this person is mutable and has a lot more changeability. And you're more of a watch and wait kind of person. This person has more fire, right? They're going to be more like, they're going to throw those high, hot acutes, and we have to like be prepared for them. But this person has a lot of water, and we got to look at this emotional plane here, right? So there's so much we can look at, and there's just so much we can do just beyond just finding the one constitutional subliminum. Like there's just so much more. So I think moving beyond the rigidity and the dogma, really individualizing, integrating approaches, because sometimes that classical is just not enough in this modern world. And we have to also think about like how can we refine our craft straight true to the core principles of homeopathy. Like we still have those core principles, but we refine the craft. So it's not about abandoning the classical. That's not what I'm saying at all, because it's still extremely valid. And the goal is to get the person healthy enough where giving them their constitution or the subliminum is the cure. That's the goal. But sometimes we gotta clear some stuff out before we get there. So it's about expansion, refinement, and like meeting the needs of today's patients, I find like. So
Yeah, because today's
yeah.
patients have been through some things in the last couple hundred years, right? In those times when the homeopathy evolved, there was no electricity. Electricity, and like as much as we'd like to ignore it every day, has a huge impact on our health and the resonance of the electrical functioning in our body. Then there's all the other things like you mentioned with the drugs, Vanessa, and the birth control and the glyphosate and the chemtrails, and it's like endless the amounts of assaults that we experience on a daily basis. So, in the household cleaners people probably just used to use vinegar and baking soda or whatever they had, right? Or homemade soap. Now we have literally industrial solvents in our home all the time, and people just bathe in that stuff. It's really sad. But all those things can undermine our bodies, basically the energetic functioning of our body. And so we need more options, more different remedies that can tap into wherever the blocks or the pathways that aren't working in our body to awaken the vital force. So we have, and the thing is Vanessa, when I heard you talking before, it's like, yes, 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 yes. And why would we start to fight amongst ourselves as homeopaths instead of like embracing each other and saying, well, what are you doing that's working better than what I'm doing? And let's compare notes. And why would we want to just cut ourselves short and then say, well, it's not working, instead of embracing alternative homeopathy stuff, right? Because now we're basically doing an allopathic thing, like only drugs work, right? That's all that matters. What you eat doesn't matter, exercise doesn't matter, just take the drug. That's kind of what homeopaths are doing, shooting themselves in the foot, instead of fighting between like constitution or simillimum and or the people who are embracing the Fibonacci's and all the so-called newer stuff. That doesn't even make sense to me. Why would we want to limit ourselves? At least stay within the homeopathic realm. Don't say
Yeah.
that you can only do it this way. That's what they do in allopathy. So we need to stop doing this pettiness and ego. People's egos are getting in the way, I would say.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, totally agree. It doesn't make any sense to me. And my phone is ringing. It's my husband calling. Oh, I'm still recording. Yeah, so classical homeopathy is powerful, but it's also not a panacea, and I think that's so important to bring because it's not a panacea, right? And it's like sometimes the single constitutional is not enough. We've got a lot of layers, things can get complex, and we want to respect that foundation, but we don't need to force that into like the reality to fit that model. Like we can expand beyond and use all different kinds of tools. There's a book by Ian Watson. There was like 17, I think there's 17 different ways to use homeopathy. So we could expand on all of that. And there are, unfortunately, like I said, it's not a panacea. There are modern blocks to healing. Like I'm not saying that you can't use homeopathy with pharmaceutical use, but the goal is hopefully to eventually get off or like not continue to keep using these things and keep using the antibiotics and keep like when a client like continually every time they get an acute, they still go to the pharmaceuticals or every time they get these things, they still go to these things. That's going to be like a modern block to healing. But of course, there's poor lifestyle habits, poor light habits. These like I don't think that light is a beautiful foundation and we talk about it all the time how necessary it is, but I think it fuels modern disease, not the cause of modern disease. So but if someone has poor light environment, that is going to fuel their disease, right, and continually have it going. Same thing with non-native EMFs, like having a lot of exposure to non-native EMFs, this can like fuel the disease. If you're eating McDonald's every day, this is going to fuel disease, like diet habits. Like we need to think about all of these things, right? And also, people who are exposed, I know a practitioner who once said that in more EMF dense populations, that remedies needed to be repeated more frequently, which I thought was so interesting because of the way that they interact. We're talking about sensitive, vibrational frequency medicine, right? And then the other block I would also think about is in relationships or environments that are constantly triggering states of stress and keeping that person in a sympathetic dominance, right? So those also are obstacles in the modern world that we need to look at and also be addressing, right?
Absolutely. We always want to take into context the whole person and their whole environment in addition to their history and their actual symptoms. So any intervention will work better if you have a solid foundation for your lifestyle. So your sleep is on point, you're eating healthy, fresh, whole foods, ideally in season, you have a fairly regulated nervous system, right? And so homeopathy can help with the nervous system regulation, but these other things you need to do to as a kind of like a how shall we say, it's the foundation that allows the homeopathy to work even better, have a higher chance of success, right? So sleeping, circadian rhythms, your nutrition and diet, being hydrated, cutting down on the environmental exposures and stressors, and feeling a sense of somewhat of a sense of safety in your everyday life. Because if you're, and homeopathy again can help with those things, but it will be even better if you have some of these things dialed in.
A
Um,
homeopathy might make you leave the poor relationship that you're in, or it might have you
well,
see
there you
the
go.
things
That's
like
good.
you might become back to a little bit more alignment, feel a little bit more power or empowered to like do or move towards things that are better for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might even help you move towards making better, healthier choices and all the things, right? Like it can help move in that direction, but you also got to put the work in too, you know? We can't just think of homeopathy, like we said, is it the pill or the portal, right? You can't just think of it as this pill I'm going to take and it's going to change my life. You've got to actually like put the work in to take care of your health too, because I don't think a remedy can place like the foundations that we need, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, just to be clear for our new listeners who may be even new to homeopathy, I want to just do a little pause here. And homeopathy is an energetic medicine that uses the energetic resonance of substances that are imprinted in a solution. So, it's like the mother tincture, and then those are shaken or succussed. And then the more that you dilute and succuss, it strengthens the energetic resonance of that compound. It could be plant, mineral, animal, any of these kind of substances can be used. And so when we talk about a similimum, some people call it a constitutional remedy. That's like the totality of your overall symptoms in essence matches with one specific remedy. So that's the similimum. And the classical way of prescribing is what we're differentiating in this whole podcast, is that you would use one constitutional or similimum remedy at a time and then wait for that to act for up to 8 or 9 months. And the modern way that we're sort of embracing right now is moving beyond that. We're still taking all that into consideration and using that, but we're adding and expanding. So,
Hmm.
one way that people have found this more modern approach to be helpful is by using different types of potencies. And one of them is called a Fibonacci potency. So, Vanessa, what is the Fibonacci in your
Yeah,
understanding?
I love that explanation. You did such a beautiful job explaining that. And yeah, in the classical way, it's like you wait that so long period, right? So say you give someone like the 200 C of Nat Mur and you would wait. And you might check in with the person to make sure it's acting, but you'd want to wait like 8 months to make sure that that layer is completely like cured, right? And I get that. It makes sense. And there's a lot of good to that, but the problem is there's a lot of things that can antidote and things get in the way and all of this. And then sometimes what happens is maybe that remedy of Natmer was right, but the 200C just wasn't enough. It needed a 1M or it needed a 30. It was too high. Like getting the potency can be like kind of tricky. So one of the new modern way of homeopathy or the new age ways of homeopathy is learning to we can have homochords. And homochords, all it means is there's more than one potency in the remedy. So say it's Natmer again, but you took Natmer in the 30, 200, 1M, and 10M, and your body picked what it wanted, right? All those remedies are in together, but your body chooses the frequency that it resonates with. So it kind of lessens the chances of getting the wrong potency because in homeopathy, you can have the right remedy, but not the right potency. And then things don't shift the way you want. So it's a very, very individualized. Because the energy of your remedy has to be stronger than the energy of the disease or the disturbance, I should say. So if that energy is not greater than the disturbance, it might just ping off and not actually work. So a homochord has more than one potency in it. That's what it is, okay? And your body will choose and select the potency that it resonates with. Now, a Fibonacci homochord is a homochord. So, I mean, it has many potencies in one, but it uses the Fibonacci sequence. Okay. So, it's just a sequence of natural mathematical patterns where each number is created by adding the two numbers before it. So, 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 is 3, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So, that's the pattern. And its pattern shows up all throughout nature, like in flowers, in seashells, in branches, in our DNA, like in all living, in the solar system, in the galaxy, right? So it reflects this natural sequence of growth and expansion. And sometimes homeopaths will put people on Fibonacci sequence of, say, taking one for a couple weeks, then taking two, then taking three, then taking five, then taking eight. Again, that's like very slow, right? Like even again, like before what I mentioned with the Nat Mur and taking in a 200C, and then that didn't make it, then you're going to take 8 months of it on a 1M, right? If we put that all together and we give the body all the things, it can pick what it needs, right? So homochords give multiple potencies following this natural sequence are combined in one preparation. So the body would get all of these potencies together and it picks what it resonates with rather than a single potency. And it allows for more of an adaptive and individualized response because every day your body's choosing what it needs. It's not rigid, and healing can happen in these kind of waves and natural rhythms because maybe one day your body needed the 8C and the next day it needed whatever, the 200 something, right? So your body can choose what it needs each and every day. What happens with that, and I don't know if this episode or the ones we did with Peter and Becky will come out after or before, but you save time because you're taking you found the remedy, but now you're taking the potency kind of out of the equation, right? You're taking that part out of the equation. So it saves a lot of time and it helps people get healing in a much quicker fashion.
Hmm. Yeah, it's more efficient. It's not gonna, people don't really, we're not very good at waiting in this culture for much of anything. So it's kind of interesting how it's reflecting our current state, the need for more,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say aggressive, that's not the right word, but more timely, right? Intervention where people aren't going to be, because we don't want to lose people in homeopathy. If we people think I have to take this one thing and then I'm waiting 8 months, like most people who don't understand the body or alternative health or just don't trust, right? They're like, yeah, I'm out. Give me something else. So we want to help people get better sooner, or at least see results sooner. And it's
Mhm.
not about being fast or trying to cut corners. It's really just about offering the body more choices and not
Right.
having to sort of play this waiting game where we're like, well, maybe it's a 200Z, maybe it's a 1M, is it this or that? It's like just offer this. It's like a buffet. Here's your buffet, body. Pick the things that resonate with you and let's get the ball rolling, That's kind
Yeah.
of how I'm hearing it.
We can make all kinds of homochords. Like you can make Fibonacci homochords, like we were talking with that special sequence of numbers, but you could make homochords of Kentians, like your 30, like that one. And you can make homochords that combined all of that. And then you can make homochords with like LMs and Qs, like we talked about with Peter.
And that's
And then you
called
can
a
put all of
super.
that in there.
That's called a super, right?
The super is the Kentian and the
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci. And then I think he called that a Y hold back. Like,
Oh, when it
like
has all of it in there? Okay.
yeah, like so you can really like I think it takes that because never it's not homeopathy is never a guessing game. It's just very individualized and it you can get faster results. And like I love that you said it's not about cutting corners, it's about helping the body. Don't we want quick and rapid results? Isn't that the goal of homeopathy? It was supposed to be quick, gentle, and rapid. That was the goal of Hahnemann, right?
Hmm.
So, like, yeah, like, why wouldn't we not use that? Like, you need to just take the dogma out and just like think about how we can collaborate. That's what I wanted to say before that we were talking. Collaborating and talking to other homeopaths about what they are doing and the successes that they are getting, I think is vital in this career and to stay abreast of everything because that's what we used to do. right? We used to work together in like homeopathic hospitals, and now we don't have that. So myself, I'm always taking new trainings. Like I'm taking two trainings right now, one in homeopathy and astrology and one in healing complex children. And I will continue to take more. But then what happens is I grow my network of homeopaths who are then teaching me about what they're doing in their practice and how that's helping them, right? Because it's really valuable, right? Because we can all support and help each other. And I feel like I've been on this journey of expansion, and it feels so right. Is
That's
what
what we need
it
is we
feels.
need absolutely we need more resonance and harmony and collaboration among homeopaths versus this infighting, which is
Hmm.
just gonna right drag it all down. So there's lots of novel
Right.
things to try, and some of these aren't actually new. I mean, Hahnemann did do some of these things, so it's not like
Yes,
it's
he
just
did.
brand new.
Yeah, he did
Um,
LM potencies,
mhm.
and he did isotherapy sometimes, which we're going to talk about next. So they're not really new, they're old. But I mean, I just think that we really, if we stay in our box, we're cutting ourselves off from more opportunities, basically, is how
Right.
I feel.
So
Yeah.
Vanessa mentioned isotherapy. So in homeopathy, the basic foundation is the simillimum or the constitutional remedy, where you pick the one remedy that will elicit a healing response because that substance, that original substance, can create those symptoms. So we're waking up the body's vital force by using the simillimum. Isotherapy, alternatively, is about not like cures like, but same cures same, and there's a corresponding idea of never been well since. So there's something that happened to the person, which maybe it was a jab, maybe it was birth control, maybe it was a trauma, or whatever the case is, where we're going to then give a remedy that is evocative of that initial experience and or similar to that. So Vanessa, help us understand
I
these.
think like isotherapy really helps clear a muddy picture when you see a lot of constitutionals and you can't figure out which one is the right one. And so in my case is a, a very good example. I'm never well since a jab injury, right? So what that is you would take that substance in homeopathic preparation, right? If you've never been well since birth control, you could take birth control in homeopathic preparation. I suggest working with somebody because there are things that you need to do to get the body prepared for these kinds of homeopathic detoxes necessarily, right? Like you want to have your detox pathways open, you want to be strong enough, maybe you need some tissue salts to support you for some time. I use different organ supports for people to get like their organs an energetic boost before we do things like this. So I don't just recommend like jumping into isotherapy. And I think honestly, to get access to these kinds of remedies, you really need to work with a practitioner anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I see it all the time. Like I've never been well since birth control. Now, can pulsatilla or sepia or like another homeopathic constitutional remedy clear that? Sometimes, but sometimes no. And then we need to say, oh, go back. Oh, well, this person was never well since birth control. We need to give that birth control in homeopathic preparation or the steroids or the antibiotics, whatever it was. Um, it really helps unlock stalled cases and helps clear and make the clear the muddy waters and make the constitutional prescribing more clear and work better. So that's a really good way to work the case.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you absolutely need a homeopath who's skilled to do this. It's not something you want to undertake on your own and
No.
figure out what needs to happen. So, yeah, so isotherapy, which is what Vanessa is describing, is one of the ways to do that. Other modern approaches is to prescribe a simillimum or constitutional remedy plus a miasm remedy. And miasms, right, are kind of like these ancestral inherited patterns of illness and disease that are layered with the chronic symptom presentation. So it's kind of complex, and homeopaths are trained to look at these different layers and to ascertain which layer is foremost or outermost to be addressed first, in conjunction with maybe the deeper underlying um, contributing factors that are the ancestral patterns. So those are the miasms. So it gets to be a lot, and sometimes though, if I'm right, tell me if this is right, Vanessa. Like classical approach isn't usually going to give more than one at a time at all. So the modern approach is to give the simillimum and the miasm. Is that right?
Yeah, you got that. That's called a dual prescription. And the reason why to do that sometimes is sometimes you can see the remedy is Orem, right? And you give Orem, but the person is not making enough progress. Well, sometimes the person needed Orem and syphilinum because Orem is a very syphilitic remedy, right? That's just an example. And you give both of those. So you're giving the constitutional plus the underlying miasm that's causing the disturbance. And you give both of those together, and the patient makes or the client makes much more substantial improvement. So what I'm looking for when I work with my clients is I'm looking for what is their current constitution and what is the active miasm as well. And sometimes I give both and sometimes I don't. It depends on the case. And sometimes I'm giving isotherapy, like I said, if needed. So it can be a lot of things going on. And that's why you really need a skilled practitioner. But yeah, miasms are just like old patterns, right? They're patterns, they're blueprints that we're born with, right? And they're not really random. And sometimes what we see is single prescribing doesn't resolve the complex layer. So we need to think about what is the miasm behind it. They're inherited, acquired patterns, they're energetic, physiological tendencies. And it's really important to think about that. As well when you're prescribing, and that not for the layperson to do, that's for practitioners to do. But there are five main miasms, right? And we'll just go over them really quickly. There's psoric, psychosis, syphilitic, tubercular, and carcinosin, right? There are more miasms now, like leprosy, and leprosy is a really interesting one. Strep, and there are more that are coming up. Malarial miasms that more modern homeopaths are realizing they're figuring out, right? But Sora is like deficiency, striving, and sensitivity. Psychosis is excess, stagnation, and suppression. Syphilitic is like the destruction, the despair, the collapse, and like deep transformation. I have been in all of these miasms. I've seen it in myself. Tubercular is more like the instability, the exhaustion, and the restlessness, and carcinosin is the control over adaptation and perfectionism. So those are like the five core that Hahnemann actually discovered the first three, psoric, psychosis, and syphilitic. Tubercular and carcinosin were added later. But recognizing the chronic miasm and then understanding like through family history and giving a remedy prescribed to that and knowing when to use dual prescribing is really, really helpful. And then it helps move the case quicker. And then you could also say, what are the tissue salts that I could use to support it? What are the flower essences that I could use to support that miasm, right? So it's really just giving a whole comprehensive vitalistic approach to the entire case. And that's another thing too, which is so interesting. Like in classical, you wouldn't combine tissue salts or flower essences, and yet those things are so helpful in cases like supporting the tissues while you're helping support the whole person, but also supporting like some of the mental emotional things that are just these really, really deep, patterns within the body. So it's so beautiful. So I do want to share because I kept seeing the patterns in complex cases, right? And practitioners sometimes can feel stuck when like classical things approach, right? I did create a course called the Miasmatic Blueprint, and it's helping you understand disease and ideas of that. So it's a course all about miasms. I only talked about the five miasms plus the strep miasm in there, but it's a pretty in-depth course. It's about 6 hours of content. I would say this is more like if you want to be a practitioner, like this is a course for that. It's not really a course for the lay person, but it's pre-recorded, lifetime access. I talk about remedies, tissue salts, flower essences, all the things based on miasm. So how do you figure out the miasm? So you know what the miasm is to prescribe the miasm, and how do you then also find the right remedy to match that? So yeah, I think it's really, really good because I think it's missing a lot of times in people don't understand. Like I find it very easy to understand why somebody's sick with what they're sick with. And I think that's like a challenge. I was just talking with a friend of mine about this, about root causes. And everybody will say, oh, it's the nervous system, it's the food, it's the light. I'm like, it's none of that. Like it's none of that. And I love all the work that's out there. But I just feel like after the education that I've had, that it's so much bigger than that, and it boils down to suppression. And we've talked about this many times, whether it's suppression from drugging or whether it's suppression from mental emotional trauma. So I'm looking, is it the trauma that's the issue or is it the drugging that's the issue? And then when I know that, it can really help me narrow it down. So I think if you want to understand real root causes of diseases and why people suffer with what they suffer with and family history and like how to figure out the miasm that's active, go and check out that course. So I know that was a lot, but I
Sounds
think it,
amazing, and like what a needed course and a valuable tool for homeopaths to have, because it sounds like it's pretty subtle and very much an art and a skill to ascertain whether it's the miasm or the other blocks you were mentioning, the
mhm.
right, the drug stuff.
Yeah,
So
that is what do you how do you know which the block is, right? I think is
yeah,
a good question. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to look at
So
all the drugging that's happened to the person as well.
absolutely right,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, But just to summarize this like piece around embracing the other energetic approaches. So, we were taught like it's you got to have just the remedy, the one remedy, because you don't want to cloud the picture. And what we're finding is that other energy medicines, as well as lifestyle practices, really actually enhance and can work synergistically with the simillimums. So we use flower essences, which is a whole treatment approach in and of itself that's absolutely beautiful and elegant, and they're really amazing to support the mental emotional healing of someone. And then there's the tissue salts. So the tissue salts, otherwise known as cell salts as well, those help with the foundation of our bodies being mineral and assimilating minerals and cellular function and just really gentle daily support. Those are very complementary for homeopathy. Obviously, herbal medicine as well, that's been around since time immemorial for organ support, detox, and nervous system nourishment. And then absolutely invaluable as well, indispensable as a lifestyle medicine support. So that's like movement, sunlight, fascia, breath work, somatic practice and awareness, and attending to your diet and your heart and your relationships. So all of those things together are complementary to homeopathy. That's to me, this is the modern approach. It's like, let's look at everything. Let's find
Hmm.
out what you need for your simillimum, your miasmatic remedy, and then let's look at everything else. So it's a lot maybe for people who are new to undertake all at once. So you can build up your lifestyle changes just slowly, making
Yeah.
shifts in your way of, in your diet, in your day-to-day life, in your way of being with your emotions, and all of those things are really, really powerful, because we're not just one-dimensional beings. Like, as
Hmm.
we're spiritual beings, we're electromagnetic beings, we're consciousness, like we're all plasma, like we're all these things. It's like we have to attend to our essence. We can't just say like let's just do parasite cleanse. Like that could be fine if it's really the one main problem, but it's not enough. Like we have to attend to our whole
Yeah.
being energetically, physiologically, and
Holistically,
yeah,
vitalistically. It's the
holistically.
whole thing, it's the whole picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, and always maintaining hope for someone, that's that people are curable. There's always a way to enhance your health. There's always a way to unburden your body, your heart, your nervous system, and that's really, really important to, because it's people can feel so helpless nowadays, Vanessa. It's like, oh, how am I ever going to get better when I have this, that, or the other thing? And it's like a lot of chronic illness because of all the things we've mentioned in the show so far.
Yeah. Yeah. People can get really down on themselves. It's a very syphilitic energy though, right? When we have that complete despair, right? That we can't get better. But I love how like so I when somebody meets with me, I don't like throw all of that at them, right? Of course, right? It's a very layered approach, right? We're slowly layering in lifestyle stuff and all the things. Um, we're slowly layering in all those things. So I don't give them, I don't want someone to feel overwhelmed, like, oh, we're gonna give you like 10 things to do when we first meet with you. Like it's nice and slow and we build upon it, right? So I don't always give tissue salts and flower essences and a miasmatic and a constitutional and lifestyle stuff. I slowly work with the client and I build upon the things, right? And keep supporting them because I know this could feel a little bit overwhelming if you're like, oh my goodness, we're doing all these things, right? But yeah, that was the reason why I felt like I needed to learn more because I that really bothered my heart that some people would say like certain cases are incurable um because classical homeopathy couldn't work with it. And I felt like, well, that's not the fault of that person. That's the fault of the practitioner who's not learning more and expanding their toolkit. Because I think homeopathy has the potential to cure just about anything. It's just the way that you're working with it. I don't think there's anybody who is incurable. I think, I think we're infinite potential, but it's just what are the tools that we have in our toolbox, right? And how do we help them? So, last thing we want to wrap up on is something that I'm like really loving and learning about is learning about natal charts and how to use that when it comes to interpreting what a person needs. So now I ask my clients when I give out my intake, do you want me to look at your chart? Like, do I have permission? And some people say yes, and some people say no, and that's totally up to them,
Right.
right?
You're talking
Uh,
about incorporating astrology into your treatment and care.
Yes, natal
Natal
charts are
chart.
astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Natal charts are astrology. Yes. So, like I said, I'm taking a course with Liz Norman on astrology, and my work is always evolving and sharpening our craft, like I said. So it to me, the astrology natal chart is another like map or terrain that gives me lots of clues about certain remedies, how to dose, different mental, emotional things that come up, different physical things that are going to come up. Because I'm learning a little bit, I'm starting to learn about medical astrology, so I can glean information from the chart and then study it and use it, right? And I also could figure out why somebody might be struggling with something. It might not be it might not be something that you really have control over. It might be something that's happening with the planets, like, and honestly, one thing I've loved about astrology and understanding my own natal chart, which I'm still, like I said, I'm still in the course, I'm still learning. I'm only about halfway through. It's so validating. I'm like, oh, I am extreme. It's like written in the stars that I am going to be overly responsible. Like it's just that's just like who I am. Like it's in so many different aspects of my chart. Like it's all over it. I'm like, "Oh my God, it goes back to responsibility again." Like this is like ridiculous. But it is. Like so, but that says to me so for me, looking at remedies that are takes responsibility too seriously, that's important. That's an important,
Mhm.
keynote for me to look at. So it can give me a lot of clinical information, right? It can
Sounds like it
real,
would be helpful to like for any for not for you, Vanessa, but so if somebody feels bad about how they are, so to speak, like, oh, this is the way I am. You hear people say that a
yep,
lot, right? Then it'll be validating, but also maybe counter shaming, like, oh, it's not like there's something wrong with me. Like this is my soul blueprint or whatever you want to call it, right? Astrologically. And also though, I think once we have that insight, and whether or not you're getting treated homeopathically, once you have that insight, it'll soften that a little bit, like, oh,
definitely.
okay, like I don't have to always be the overly responsible one, or I don't always have to be the one to do everything. Maybe it's okay for me to take a step back, right? Even
Mhm.
though it's like in the stars, it's giving you permission to let go a little bit. Is that true for you?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But it's validating in the fact like maybe this is part of just who I am and maybe it doesn't need fixing too.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Like
Yeah.
it's validating in that, like, oh, it's not like something I'm doing wrong. It's just kind of part of my constitution and who I am, right?
Hmm.
And the question that us homeopaths have to say is that over responsibility in me causing pathology, right? That's the question that needs to be asked before you just treat it. And again, when look at somebody's natal chart astrology chart, I'm not going to choose remedies based off of that. It's the whole picture, right? It's everything, right? It's not just about like, oh, that someone's in a Scorpio so they get this remedy, right? Like that's just not how it
It's
goes,
not
right?
black and white and clear cut
It's
that way.
solely not black and white. It's always individualized, right? So it just reveals things and can offer some more insights and more support, right, to the person. It's a tool. It's another tool in the toolkit, right? And it can give clinical insights basically about the person's nervous system, about their boundaries, about their, health tendencies or things that they might stumble on in their life, but it also can give clinical about things that are going to go really well and what they're really good at. Like it's not just, of course, the things that are detrimental. It's also all the positive things that a person have. Like being responsible is a positive trait too, right? It depends on whether it's become a pathological or not within the person, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this has been so fascinating, Vanessa. I mean,
Yeah.
really, I think we're just getting started with homeopathy and energy medicine. It's been around for obviously a long time, hundreds of years. And I think as we zoom out and think about the state of the world right now, which I can't even go online, sometimes it's just too
Oh, no.
scary. I'm thinking about we have sort of we're at a tipping point, and either we're going to expand consciousness and find a way to infuse more love in the world and embody more love within ourselves, or I don't even want to think about what else is going to happen. That's what I'm going to default to. Is like we're going to get through this, right? So there's like a lot of chaos and tension, and I think a lot of people are pretty scared actually, and so there's a lot
Mm.
of divisiveness. So I think homeopathy is really well positioned, the more, because Remedy Academy, they're building a hospital, like it's exploding. There's exponential growth in the healing modalities of homeopathy and other ones like circadian and quantum biology, and thank God, right? Because we really are at a boiling point where we need more support for people to strengthen them and to fortify them to move through this expansion that humanity is going through, the evolution of consciousness. And so we're growing, right? We're growing individually as practitioners, as human beings, and in systems that are changing and transforming. And our medicine needs to evolve along with that. And I think that the evolution of homeopathy is reflecting that actually. And
Mm.
so it requires us to be flexible. It's an art, it's skill and an art. And the art to me is what encompasses the soul and the spiritual aspect of it. Because I think the
Mhm.
best practitioners are well connected to their own physical experience, their own intuition, their own spirituality. And like you, Vanessa, right, I see you doing that, and you really tap into the person, and you're resonating into your own experience of that person, and you're using all the knowledge and skill you have. And that's the kind of medicine that we need, not just like cookie cutter, oh, you have this problem, here's your remedy or your drug or whatever for every single person. No, we need a more nuanced and spiritual approach. And I think that's what we're talking about today, is how homeopathy is expanding in to do just that.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited about the future of what's going to happen, and I think, just to put a plug in again for your course, that's what you're doing, Vanessa. You're offering in the Miasm Blueprint course, the story of disease, the Miasm Blueprint that you just mentioned earlier, for people who are practitioners who are maybe newly starting out or they haven't looked into miasms yet. Please check out Vanessa's course, because that's part of it, is we're healing the ancestral trauma layer as well, and that needs to be attended to. So
Mhm.
there's just so much good stuff going on. This is really fun.
Yeah, in astrology, some things are happening to Jupiter, and Jupiter is all about expansion. And it's just so interesting,
There you
right? It's
go.
just,
There you go.
yeah, it's this expansion over the contraction, right? So it's just like, and I feel it. Like I don't know, I definitely feel energetic shifts. Certain full moons or new moons can be more impactful for me. Like if the moon, like the moon, last full moon in Aquarius, that was a couple months ago. I'm like, well, I felt that one because my moon is Aquarius, so I like really felt it. But anyway, it's all about that expansion level, right? So I think as a collective, we're feeling that, and I've definitely felt that pull and that call to keep expanding and growing, and yeah, to give people hope and to give people support. And I feel like we can always do better. I do. I feel that way. Like as practitioners, like if we stay stuck in one simple, rigid, dogmatic way, and we don't see the forest, the trees of all these different opportunities that we have, we're really limiting ourselves. And that's what I felt. And that's why I felt called to learn more. The things that I have seen my trainer do, Anka Zimmerman, will have to get her on the podcast because she's amazing with the complex children, with the homeopathic detox is is like it's unbelievable. Like it really is. And it's like we think that these things are not curable, but I am
Right.
watching her cure them right in front of my eyes. It's all live cases,
Wow.
nothing pre-recorded. You see the magic happening. You see her come these clients every month come back with their children, and you see, well, how about this? Oh no, she's not doing that anymore. How about that? Oh no, he's not doing that anymore. Oh, how about this? I'm like,
That's
well,
incredible.
well, it's curable. It's just, unfortunately, the drugging is really hindering people's health, and we just don't realize it. And I always knew that, but I'm like, wow, this confirms it so much. And yeah, of course, that miasm course is a great course if you're looking to be a homeopath, if you're just starting out homeopathy. Hopefully, your homeopathic training is teaching about miasms. If it's not, take this course also so you can understand, okay, how do I recognize that miasm? And then how do I use that knowledge to help me narrow down my remedy choices, but also see the patterns in the family line? Like Heather said, we're healing the ancestral lineage, right? That is so valuable. And do that before you have children because then it doesn't impact them is my other thing. So anyway, yeah, go check out that course, The Story of Disease, the Mayan Blueprint. You're of course more than welcome to work with me. When you book in an initial homeopathic session, not only will I take into account homeopathy for you, but I sprinkle in the lifestyle stuff, try to slowly not overwhelm people, and I sprinkle and I use tissue salts and flower essences if I see fit. And I also, now, if you'd like me to, I look at your astrology chart. So there's a lot of things I'm doing within that
Wow.
session to support you and to get you moving forward in your health. And I just feel so blessed and so lucky to be on this journey and to have homeopathy in my toolkit, but even all these other things that I just mentioned, they're all such beautiful modalities. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, take advantage, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you got some good insights in this podcast, learned some good things and some value. And please share and please rate our podcast. And
Yeah, we appreciate it.
yeah, we look forward to spreading the word. So see you guys next week.